She screamed I was faking being disabled and security believed her. So I stood up in front of 200 people at Disney World and removed my prosthetic leg. The silence was deafening. But before I tell you how an entitled mom got a lifetime ban from the happiest place on earth, hit that subscribe button because this story is absolutely insane. This comes from the AITA subreddit, posted by a Marine veteran we'll call James. James is 28 years old and lives near Orlando, Florida. He lost his right leg below the knee in an IED blast while deployed in Afghanistan back in 2019. He's got a prosthetic leg that works great for everyday life. But here's the thing. After about 6 hours of walking, the prosthetic starts causing serious pain, blisters, swelling, the works. So when James goes to Disney World, which he does pretty often since he lives close by, he brings his wheelchair. Not because he can't walk at all, but because a full day at the parks would destroy his leg. It's a completely normal accommodation that thousands of disabled people use. James was at Magic Kingdom with his girlfriend on a Saturday afternoon. Beautiful day. Park was packed. They'd been there since opening, and by early afternoon, James had switched to his wheelchair like he always does. They were in line for Space Mountain, just chatting and having a good time. Then Karen appeared. This woman, probably in her early 40s with the classic "I need to speak to the manager" haircut, walked up with her son. The kid looked about 8 years old, totally fine playing on his phone. And this woman looked at James and said, "Excuse me, my son has anxiety and needs to sit down. Can he use your wheelchair?" James was confused. There were benches everywhere. He politely said, "I'm sorry, but I actually need this. I'm disabled." She looked him up and down and said, "You're way too young to be disabled. Stop faking." James tried to explain. Marine veteran, lost his leg, uses the chair to conserve energy, but she wasn't listening. But it gets worse. She actually grabbed his wheelchair and tried to pull her son into James's lap. I physically tried to take it while he was sitting in it. James held on tight and his girlfriend stepped between them. "Ma'am, you need to back off right now." The woman started screaming, and I mean screaming. This man is faking a disability. He's stolen valor. He's taking resources from people who actually need them. A huge crowd formed, easily 200 people watching this scene unfold. Kids crying, parents staring, cast members rushing over. And the woman just kept screaming that James was a fraud. 2 security cast members arrived. Both of them looked maybe 22 years old, clearly newer employees. The woman immediately went full Karen mode, crying, saying her son has severe anxiety and needs accommodation, claiming James was faking because he looks too healthy. And then security looked at James and said, "Sir, if you're able to walk, maybe you could let the child rest for a few minutes." James couldn't believe what he was hearing. Security was actually siding with her. His girlfriend started recording on her phone at this point because this was getting unreal. The woman was smirking like she'd already won. Her son was still just playing on his phone, completely unbothered. The crowd was murmuring, some people looking uncomfortable. James looked at his girlfriend. She nodded. He looked at the security cast members. Then he looked at Karen, and he said, "You want proof? Fine." He stood up slowly from the wheelchair. The crowd went quiet. Karen's smirk got bigger. "See, he can walk just fine." Then James reached down, unstrapped his prosthetic leg, and removed it completely. Just took it right off and held it up in the air. Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. 200 people frozen, staring. Karen's face went from smug to white in about half a second. Her son looked up from his phone and started crying. "Mommy, what did you do?" James said, calm as anything. "I lost this in Afghanistan. Any other questions?" One of the young security guards looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. But before anyone could say anything else, a senior manager came running over. Apparently someone in the crowd had called guest relations. The manager took one look at the situation, saw James holding his prosthetic, saw the recording phone, and immediately knew exactly what had happened. "Ma'am, you need to come with me right now." The manager's voice was ice cold. Karen tried to argue, but 2 more security personnel appeared and escorted her and her son out of the line. James heard her screaming all the way down the path about how this was unfair and she was going to sue. The senior manager apologized profusely to James. He got a personal escort to the front of every ride for the rest of the day, and guest relations gave him and his girlfriend free park hopper passes. But the real justice came later. The Reddit post exploded 28,000 upvotes. Top comments said, "The mental image of you just casually removing your prosthetic in front of 200 people is the most badass thing I've ever heard." Another comment with 15,000 upvotes said, "That manager haircut gave her the confidence to challenge a veteran's disability she learned today." Someone else wrote, "Those young cast members are going to remember this for the rest of their lives. Never assume someone's disability." James posted an update 2 weeks later, and it gets even better. Disney contacted him personally. Karen had been issued a lifetime ban from all Disney properties. Turns out she'd caused scenes before at other parks, but this was the final straw. She tried to fight it, but James's girlfriend's video had been shared with Disney security, and there was no coming back from that. The 2 young security cast members were reassigned to additional training on disability accommodations. Not fired, but definitely learned a lesson. And Disney sent James a formal apology letter plus an annual pass for him and a guest. Free Disney for a year. James ended his update with this: "People see a wheelchair and assume you can't walk at all. Disability isn't always visible, and it's not always what people expect. That woman tried to humiliate me in front of hundreds of people. Instead, she humiliated herself and got banned for life. Sometimes the trash takes itself out." So what would you do if someone accused you of faking a disability? Would you have handled it the same way? Drop your answer in the comments. This Marine literally had to remove his prosthetic leg to prove his disability to an entitled mom at Disney. She wanted his wheelchair for her son's anxiety and ended up with a lifetime ban. If you want more stories of entitled people getting exactly what they deserve, subscribe and hit that bell because I've got more coming all week. See you in the next one.